Hi guys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Kook Shed, my own little YouTube channel where we discuss ideas, tips and reviews relating to surfing and bodyboarding. Now today we're talking about something a little bit different, and it's about long hair and surfing, and the relationship between surfing and long hair. So I guess it all sort of started, back in the 50s. Society was quite different. The way people looked was quite different, and you had a lot of sort of regimented, quite clean, tidy, short haircuts, and the short back and sides sort of look. And then you had the 60s sort of came along, and that's when people started like rebelling against the confines of the current rules in society. And you had the hippie movement, which came about, sort of rebelling against what society said was acceptable, and people sort of grew their hair long as a sort of way of rebelling against that sort of short back and sides and very neat and tidy look, overall aesthetic. And long hair sort of became associated with that rebellion, and surfing was sort of gaining popularity, and it sort of aligned with that hippie movement because of the freedom, the way of life, not following any rules, and being adventurous, that sort of thing. And so you got a lot of surfers growing their hair long as part of that sort of hippie movement. The musician movement, a lot of musicians were going against that clean cut look from the 50s. They were starting to sort of get the longer hair happening, and becoming a bit more disheveled, and just a bit more relaxed about the way they did their hair. So I'm guessing that's where it sort of started coinciding with surfing, but it's since become quite synonymous, closely related to the surfing and music scene. You get a lot of musicians with long hair as well, but surfers sort of adopted that long hair look, and it's become sort of like a fashion statement, a way of, some people do it as a way of showing they surf, or even some that don't surf that want to be associated with that culture might grow their hair long because they like the look of it, the aesthetics of it. There was war and things like that back in the day, where soldiers had to cut their hair short if in the army, and this longer hair was another way of rebelling against that sort of what they saw as dehumanizing look, maybe, I don't know, but just it's definitely stemmed from around that time, and it's become part of the surfing culture, is basically what I wanted to say. So is it good for surfing though? And that's what I wanted to explore. Now I've grown my hair quite long recently, in the last year or two, just because I wanted to. I'd never grown my hair really long before, and I just wanted to sort of see what it was like. I'm getting a bit older. I just wanted to grow my hair long. So that's basically why I did it. Now when I was younger, I had longish hair, not this long, when I was a teenager, and I was surfing or bodyboarding, my favourite spot, and it was really lovely conditions, nice and hollow, beautiful little punchy barrels, and I got one wave, and I'll never forget it. I was in the barrel, it was beautiful green sand bottom barrel, you know, light shining in through the lip, through the top of the lip, and I'd been in there, you know, quite a while. It wasn't just a quick cover up, and I was sort of on my way out, heading out of the barrel, and it spat, and it blew my hair into my eyes, blew my hair forward, and it went into my eyes, and I careered into the lip, sort of into the trough, towards the lip. I was on a right hander, and I sort of went to the left, into the trough, into the lip, and, you know, fell off. And I remember being really, really disappointed with that. I was really angry, and I ended up cutting my hair like less than a week later, because I just thought, no, I value those barrels and that experience more than having longer hair. And that was like the last time up until now that I had long hair. So is it beneficial to surfing or not? And that's what I wanted to sort of explore today, just because it's, you know, so socially linked with surfing. You know, you see someone with a sort of long hair and that sort of surfer look, and you sort of instantly assume that they surf a lot, which can be a mistake. So yeah, I just wanted to weigh up the pros and cons of long hair and surfing. This is mainly about guys with long hair. I guess I don't really know enough, as a guy I don't really know enough to speak for the ladies. So generally today I'm talking about longer hair on guys. So first of all, what about some positives, some pros about long hair in the surfing with long hair? It protects your head and your neck and your ears from the sun, which is great. Not as much sun exposure on your head, ears, you know, whatever's sticking out above your wetsuit or rashi. So that's great. It's really good for sun protection, definitely. In colder months, colder conditions, it keeps your head warm and can keep your neck warm, your ears, that sort of thing. I know a lot of people with very short hair or no hair, in cold conditions they'll wear like a little surf hoodie or even a helmet, as discussed in the Gath helmet video that I did. You might want to check that one out. So it keeps your head warm. But apart from that, like, well, I could list the aesthetics. If you know, you might just like that look, you might like that style, possibly because of that association with surfing. So that might be a pro for you, but that's not really to do with surfing on the actual wave. That's more just a, you know, an aesthetic, cultural, social thing. So that's pretty much all I can list. I might have missed one or two, but that's pretty much it for pros of surfing with long hair. Like, the rest of it isn't good. Like, for instance, it gets really hot in the warmer months. So a lot of people surf more frequently in the warmer months. They frequent the beach, and I've found that your head gets really hot from having long hair, like down on the back of your neck, on your ears, even just having a lot more hair on your head. Your head gets hot, it gets sweaty, it can get itchy from just that sweat, and it's just not a nice, it's not a good thing. So like, I know, like, I do a bit of work outside, and yeah, I always put my hair up in a bun or something, because it's just so hot on the back of my neck, and it just gets in the way. So that's a downside, the heat of having long hair in a hot environment, which a lot of you might frequent a lot, might surf in a lot. It gets in the way a lot in the surf. Okay, so when you're duck diving, when you're coming up out of the water, it can come down over your face and get in your eyes, that sort of thing, and that's, you know, that's detrimental to having a good time in the surf. Like, sometimes if you're surfing serious conditions, you don't have seconds to get your hair out of your eyes while you're paddling. You might be in a critical impact zone and you have to get out of there, and every second or microsecond spent just getting your hair out of your eyes so you can see what you're doing, that could be spent paddling and getting you out of trouble. So that's a downside. On the wave itself, when you're surfing, it can get in your eyes, especially like windy conditions. It can blow in your face, or even when you're at the back waiting for a wave, your hair might dry a bit, and it's sort of especially in strong offshore conditions, it'll just sort of whip around and in your face. You're always getting it out of your eyes, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a big downside, because that's your time you want to enjoy surfing. That's you. It's chipping into your surfing time by always having to get it out of your eyes and things like that. So especially like bodyboarding, because you're down lower, you're more susceptible to chunks of water knocking your hair in your face. It's definitely, I've noticed it more bodyboarding, because you sort of, with bodyboards, they're sort of built for getting right in the impact zone, right deep in the pocket all the time, and that's where you're getting a lot of sort of a bit of chandeliering from the lip, or like I said, the blowout, the spit, just chunks of water from the lip, and you're down low, so even part of the shock wave and the foam ball can come up and just, and those critical seconds or microseconds in the barrel or in a critical position, you can't afford to be adjusting your hair. Some people flick their hair, but even then you don't want to be sort of flicking your hair all the time on the wave. That brings me to another one. Some people have complained about getting a sore neck from flipping their hair out of their eyes all the time. So that's one you've got to be conscious of too. Maybe if you're a bit younger, it might not be as much of an issue, but I think as you get older, if you're flicking your hair 100 times in a surf, it might add up. You might get a sore neck. I actually found I was getting a sore neck and I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't even think of the surf. I thought maybe it was, I thought maybe I needed to try a new pillow when I was sleeping, or get a new mattress, or I don't know, I thought maybe it was the couch I was sitting on. I couldn't figure it out. But then I went out and it was cold water, and first duck dive I went under and flicked my head, and I felt that pain was sort of like in my neck there, and I sort of started putting two and two together. It happened again the next day, or the next surf, and I'm like, there's something in this. It's the flicking the hair at maybe the wrong angle. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the right flicking style, but yeah, I think it's from the hair. And the longer your hair, the more weight is in it when it's wet. So that's putting a strain on your neck. So once again, no, that's not a good thing at all. You're actually harming your health in a way. So that's a big con, I guess. What else? Well, I find even if I'm checking the surf, if it's especially if it's really strong offshores, you get the hair sort of blows around the front, gets in your face. I like to sort of, just before a surf, while I'm checking it, I might have a banana or an apple or something light to give me a bit of energy if I do go in. And I just find even just eating a banana or an apple while I'm checking the surf when it's strong offshore, there's hair coming through and sort of getting caught on my mouth and on my lips and stuff. So you have to tie your hair up, and I don't know, it's not good. It's not good. And it's non-surf related. Now when I have something to eat, I've got to tie my hair up just so it's just not in the way or becoming a problem. If I like to work on things like down in the shed, and yeah, you've got to tie your hair up, because that one time when you're working on a bike or whatever, or the car, and you've got to get this screw in just the right position or whatever, something really detailed, chances are that's when your hair is going to fall in front of your eyes. So yeah, you have to tie your hair up all the time, just so it doesn't get in the way. And if you're going to grow your hair long, I just don't see the point in always having to tie it up all the time. Like, I don't get it. What else? Even like getting in and out of your wetsuit, especially the ones, maybe back zip, maybe not so much, but I can see it getting caught in a back zip. But definitely ones like a chest zip, where you have to pull that bit over your head, and definitely like a zipperless wetsuit, where you have to pull it over your head. It's it gets in the way, and it actually like can get caught, and it takes extra time to get in and out of your wetsuit. Definitely can pull on your hair and things like that. It's uncomfortable sometimes. I've even had to sort of put it in a bun just to put my wetsuit on, and then take the bun out before I go in the water. So it's all this extra work just to go for a surf. So I'm starting to think that it's not the most functional hair style for surfing, which is just so odd that it's become closely related to surfing. It's a funny one. Now, you might say, well, why don't you tie your hair up when you go surfing? Well, I've tried that, and I put my hair up in a sort of tied up in a knot in a bun or something, but I find that it comes loose, and that might work in really mellow conditions, say a nice fat point break where you're not really in the impact zone much. You might be riding a mal, and I don't know, you're not really in high pressure sort of situations. But if you're in sort of powerful waves, dumpy waves, shore breaks, that sort of thing, it's almost inevitable that your bun is going to become loose, sort of hangs down a bit, and then there's a risk of losing your hair tie, which is not something I want to do. I don't want to lose, a plastic or synthetic thing in the ocean. It's, I'm basically littering if I'm taking hair ties in the ocean and losing them. That's not what I want. I don't want to add any pollution to the beach or the ocean. So maybe you've got a better way to tie your hair up. I don't know. Ladies, obviously they've been doing it for a long time, and they might have some great techniques for tying their hair up, but as yet I haven't found a foolproof way of tying my hair so it gets out of the way in the surf. So when you weigh up these sort of pros and cons, you're starting to see a trend that there's way more cons here to having long hair in the surf. It's, critically, when you're in critical conditions, it's preventing you from doing your best on that wave, from maximising that wave. And even if it's not critical conditions, if it's really offshore, it'll just, a big chunk will blow on your face, and I've been on the wave and had to sort of tuck my hair out of my eye or something like that, and I don't know, like, it's just not functional. That's what I'm starting to believe. So another one that's pretty important too, and I've had it once or twice happen, but my mate mentioned it as well. So when you come up out of the water, sometimes your hair will be sort of like all over your face in this sort of big wet sheet of hair, and that can actually be dangerous if it's sort of stuck over your eyes, mouth and nose. Like, he told me about his experience. He copped a beating and then came up, and he had all this hair over his face, like I just said. It sort of stuck to his face and nose and mouth, and he had to get a breath of air before the next wave sort of got him on the head. And he could hardly get a breath of air before he had to go on to the next one. He had all that sort of hair in the way of his mouth and nose. So it actually starts to become, a safety issue. And I've had it too. I had a reef, came up, And yeah, it was just all over my face. Couldn't see where I was. I couldn't see if there was a wave right there about to land on my head. Couldn't get a clear breath of air. And like I said, it's precious seconds that as you know, sometimes you can't afford those precious seconds to quickly get the hair out of your face and see what's going on. Like when you're paddling too, when you're paddling, you don't have time to sort of stop and peel your hair out of your eyes. So it's starting to look like it's not a good thing for surfing, in my opinion. So that's just what I found. I wanted to grow it long and sort of just try it out and see, whether it works. Like I had it a bit, when I was growing it, it was sort of getting in my eyes, like it was shorter, but it was still flicking in my eyes and stuff. And I thought, well, maybe when you grow it long, because so many surfers had long hair, I thought, well, maybe when you grow it long, it sort of gets long enough to just sort of stay out of your way or something. Maybe the length sort of kept it back out of your eye. I don't know, but it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. If anything, it's worse. So yeah, I just haven't found a way to surf the same way I did with short hair. I haven't found a way to surf like that with long hair. It tends to be a hindrance more than a help, generally. Yeah, that's why I think a lot of competitive surfers, you've got people that are losing their hair, like Kelly Slater or Mike Stewart. I don't think they have a choice in it, but you get a lot of people that are on the tour or competing or want to surf at their very best level, highest level that they can, and they usually have short hair. Obviously, there's exceptions. But even I know some pros that had long hair, they do cut their hair short. And same local guys, they've had long hair around here and they've cut their hair short and they just love it. They're like, it's so much better for surfing. So I think it is a case of fashion over function. I think people like to look the part in a lot of situations. I think they like to look like they're in the surfing culture. And show people that they're a surfer or even a musician, by having that look. I think it's, even with music, like playing music, I found it gets in the way too, which is another ironic thing. It can get in the way of if you're playing an instrument too, or I don't know, it can hinder your vision when you're trying to do something you enjoy. So yeah, I just thought I'd have a chat about this sort of this thing, because I've just been curious about it for a while, and this is basically my review of long hair and surfing, and that's what I've come up with. So look, ladies out there or people with long hair out there that have found a solution or found a good way of keeping it out of harm's way and help where it doesn't restrict your surfing, let us know. If you found this interesting or helpful, hit like. If you want to leave a comment about it, if you like long hair or hate long hair, if you had long hair and cut it off or whatever, just leave a comment. And if you want to see more ideas like this, having chats about stuff like this, or surf tips, gear reviews, that sort of thing, just hit subscribe, and I'll see you here next time on Kook Shed. Thanks for dropping in. Catch ya.